What if I told you that a winter storm forming in the Gulf of Mexico right now could become one of the most significant weather events of the decade for the East Coast? And what if I told you that by Sunday morning, over 15 cities could be looking at snowfall totals they haven't seen since the late 1980s? Because that is exactly what is about to happen. Your weekend plans are about to change. Your travel plans might need to be canceled. And if you live anywhere from Atlanta to Boston, the next 72 hours are going to rewrite what you thought you knew about winter weather in 2026. I am going to walk you through every single hour of this event, tell you exactly when conditions deteriorate in your city, and explain why 3 major forecast models are showing scenarios that range from concerning to absolutely catastrophic. But before we go any further, I need you to do something. Comment your zip code or city name right now. Not later, right now. Because tomorrow's update is going to include street-level forecasts for every location mentioned in the comments, and you don't want to miss that. Pause this video, drop your location, then come right back. All right, let's talk about what's developing. Right now, at this very moment, there's a weak area of low pressure sitting in the northern Gulf of Mexico. It doesn't look like much on satellite. It's disorganized, it's broad, and if you asked most people to pick it out from a weather map, they'd probably miss it. But here's what matters. The atmospheric ingredients surrounding this system are about to come together in a way that meteorologists describe as textbook perfect for rapid intensification. We're talking about a bomb cyclone. That S not hype. That S not exaggeration, that S the technical term for what happens when a storm S pressure drops 24 millibars in 24 hours. This system is forecast to drop closer to 40 millibars between Saturday evening and Sunday morning. To put that in perspective, that S pressure comparable to a Category 2 hurricane, except this is happening in winter, over land, with snow instead of rain. Here's what that means for you. Starting tonight, light snow begins across the Appalachian Mountains. Asheville, North Carolina, you are first. By 9 p.m. tonight, you will see flurries developing. By midnight, steady light snow. Boone, North Carolina, same timeline, but you are at elevation, so you are going to see this snow stick immediately. Blowing Rock, Banner Elk, all of the high country, accumulation starts tonight and doesn't stop until Sunday afternoon. Knoxville, Tennessee, your snow starts around 11 p.m. tonight. Light at first, maybe a dusting by sunrise, but watch what happens Saturday morning. Chattanooga, you're about an hour behind Knoxville. Expect snow to develop around midnight, light through the overnight, picking up intensity after dawn. Now let's jump to where this gets really interesting, the Carolinas. Because this is where the models are showing the potential for truly historic snowfall. Raleigh, North Carolina, your precipitation starts as rain around 2 a.m. Saturday morning. But here's the critical transition. Between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. Saturday, temperatures crash, rain changes to snow, and the intensity increases dramatically. We're talking about snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour by mid-morning. That's the kind of rate where you can watch it accumulate in real time. Charlotte, your timeline is similar but slightly earlier. Rain to snow transition around 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Saturday. By 9 a.m. Saturday morning, you could already have 3 to 4 inches on the ground. Greensboro, you right in between Raleigh and Charlotte timing-wise. Rain to snow between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m., heavy snow Saturday morning into early afternoon. Durham, Chapel Hill, the Research Triangle, same story as Raleigh. Early morning rain, mid-morning transition, heavy snow through the day. Saturday, Winston-Salem URE transition happens a bit earlier because you farther north. 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. looks like the window. Here, where I need to be very clear about something. The snowfall forecasts for North Carolina are all over the place right now. And I mean dramatically different depending on which model you look at. The National Weather Service is showing 5 to 10 inches across most of central North Carolina. Conservative, reasonable, based on historical performance of similar systems. The HRRR model, which is a high-resolution short-term model, is showing 12 to 18 inches across the same area. That's a massive difference. We're talking about the difference between a significant snow event and a potentially crippling one. Which one is right? I don't know yet. And anyone who tells you they know for certain is not being honest about forecast uncertainty at this range. What I can tell you is this. The HRRR has been outperforming the other models this week. It nailed the last System S timing and totals, but it also tends to be aggressive with precipitation totals. The National Weather Service forecast is based on ensemble data, which means averaging multiple model runs to get a consensus. More conservative, but sometimes too conservative. My instinct, and this is just my read based on looking at these storms for years, is that the truth is somewhere in the middle. I think 8 to 14 inches is realistic for cities like Raleigh, Durham, and Greensboro. I think Charlotte could see 6 to 12 inches. And I think there's going to be a sharp gradient where some areas significantly outperform and others underperform based on mesoscale banding that we want to be able to forecast until it's actually happening. Columbia, South Carolina, let's talk about you. You're in a tricky spot. You're far enough south that the warm air is going to fight the cold air, which means you might start as rain Saturday morning before transitioning to snow. The question is when that transition happens and how long the snow window lasts. Right now, I am thinking you get 3 to 6 inches, but if that transition happens earlier than expected, you could push toward 8 or 9 inches. Charleston, you're even trickier. You're coastal, you're warmer, and you've got the ocean influence moderating temperatures. I think you see mostly rain Saturday with a brief period of snow Saturday afternoon into evening. Maybe an inch or two of accumulation in the best case scenario. Myrtle Beach, similar situation, but you are farther north, so slightly better chances for snow. 2 to 4 inches is possible if everything lines up. Greenville, South Carolina, you are in the upstate. Elevation helps you, and I think you are looking at a solid 4 to 8 inches. Spartanburg, Anderson, all of the upstate communities, similar totals. This is going to be significant snow for you. Now, Virginia. Let's talk about the Old Dominion because you're about to get hammered. Richmond, your snow starts around 8 a.m. Saturday morning. Light at first, but by 10 a.m. we are talking heavy snow. Snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour through the midday and afternoon. You could easily see 10 to 15 inches before this is done Sunday morning. Norfolk, Virginia Beach, you are coastal, so you are getting the enhanced moisture from the ocean. 8 to 12 inches looks likely, but here's the kicker. The winds. We need to talk about the winds. Saturday afternoon and evening, as this storm intensifies, wind gusts along the Virginia coast could reach 50 to 70 miles per hour. That is borderline hurricane force in some locations. Virginia Beach, winds could gust to 65. Cape Charles, 70. The Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel could see conditions that make it impassable. We're talking about blizzard conditions, not just heavy snow. Visibility near zero, winds creating massive snowdrifts, travel becoming impossible. Roanoke, you are in the mountains, different scenario. You get the snow earlier, starting around 6 a.m. Saturday, and it stays all snow. No mixing, no transition issues. 6 to 10 inches looks reasonable. Lynchburg, 7 to 11 inches. Charlottesville, 5 to 9 inches. You are all in the solid snow zone. Here is something nobody is talking about yet, and I think it is going to be a major story. The Outer Banks of North Carolina, Nags Head, Kill Devil Hills, Kitty Hawk. You're about to experience something that almost never happens. Heavy snow combined with coastal flooding from storm surge and astronomical high tides. We could see 3 to 5 feet of water in some low-lying areas combined with 6 to 10 inches of snow. That is a combination that hasn't happened there in decades. Let me shift north for a moment because I know some of you are wondering about Maryland, Delaware, and points north. Here is the unfortunate news if you are a snow lover in those areas. This storm is tracking too far east. It's going to be offshore by the time it reaches your latitude. Washington, D.C., you might see some light snow Saturday night, maybe a coating to 2 inches at most. Baltimore, similar story. An inch or two, nothing significant. Philadelphia, you are right on the edge. Could be an inch, could be 4 inches, depending on exact storm track. If the storm trends 20 miles farther west, you are in business. If it stays on the current track, you get mostly a miss. Wilmington, Delaware, same situation. Dover, same thing. This is the classic I-95 corridor forecast nightmare where 20 miles makes all the difference. New York City, I don't think you see much of anything. Maybe some flurries Saturday night, a dusting at most. Long Island is eastern end. The Hamptons, Montauk, you might see 2 to 4 inches because you are farther east and can catch the western edge of the storm. But for Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, this is basically a non-event. Boston here where it gets interesting again. You are far enough north and east that you might actually catch the back edge of this storm Sunday morning. Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha S. Vineyard, you could see 4 to 8 inches Sunday as the storm pulls away to the northeast. Providence, Rhode Island, similar totals. But this is all Sunday, not Saturday, and it's all dependent on the storm's exact track. Now, I want to talk about Georgia because there's a scenario here that would be absolutely wild if it happens. Atlanta, right now the forecast is for 1 to 3 inches Saturday morning. Light snow, not a major event, more of a novelty. But, and this is a big but, if that precipitation arrives an hour or two earlier than expected, while temperatures are colder, you could see 4 to 6 inches. That would be chaos for Atlanta. The city doesn't handle an inch well, let alone 4 to 6. Athens, Georgia, you are northeast of Atlanta. Colder, better positioned for snow. 3 to 5 inches looks likely. Gainesville, similar. Macon, you are farther south. Warmer, probably just a coating to an inch. Augusta, you are on the South Carolina border. 2 to 4 inches is realistic. Savannah, I think you get mostly rain with maybe a brief period of snow Saturday afternoon. A coating at most. Way too warm, too coastal, too far south to see significant accumulation. But here's the thing. Even if you don't get snow, you're getting Arctic air behind this system. Sunday morning, low temperatures in Savannah could drop to the low 20s. That's freeze warning territory. That is agricultural damage territory. That is burst pipe territory for a city that isn't built for hard freezes. Let's talk about Florida because, yes, there is actually a snow forecast for parts of Florida. Tallahassee, you have a legitimate chance of seeing snow Saturday night into Sunday morning. Not a lot, talking about a coating to an inch at most, but still, snow in Tallahassee is newsworthy. Jacksonville, similar situation, a coating possible in the northern suburbs Saturday night. Gainesville, Florida, maybe some flurries Saturday night. Orlando, Tampa, the chances are extremely low, near zero, but the mere fact that we are even discussing snowflakes in Central Florida tells you how unusual this pattern is. What you will see is temperatures dropping into the 30s Sunday morning. Orlando in the 30s, that frost and freeze concerns for all the agriculture. Now, about that comment request I made at the beginning, if you haven't dropped your location yet, scroll down and do it right now. Tomorrow's forecast is going to be so much more detailed with hour-by-hour breakdowns for specific communities, and I can do that unless I know where you need the information. This is your last reminder for this video, so please take 5 seconds and comment. Let me talk about timing in more detail because this matters enormously for anyone trying to make decisions about travel this weekend. If you were planning to drive anywhere in the Carolinas or Virginia on Saturday, I strongly recommend you don T. Here's why. Friday night, roads are mostly fine. A bit of light snow in the mountains, but nothing widespread. Saturday morning, that's when things fall apart rapidly. By 8 a.m. Saturday, snow is already falling heavily across much of North Carolina and Virginia. By 10 a.m., we are talking about accumulation rates that are faster than road crews can keep up with. By noon Saturday, I would expect most major highways in central North Carolina to be nearly impassable. Interstate 40, Interstate 85, Interstate 95, where it cuts through the Carolinas, all going to be a mess. Saturday afternoon is when it gets truly dangerous. You've got heavy snow, you've got increasing winds creating blowing and drifting snow, you've got visibility dropping to near zero in snow squalls, and you've got temperatures cold enough that any treatment on the roads is going to be less effective. Saturday evening into Saturday night, conditions peak in terms of severity. This is when the storm is at its strongest, when winds are at their highest, when snowfall rates are at their most intense. Sunday morning, the storm starts to pull away, but UV still got dangerous conditions. The snow might be tapering, but now UV got massive drifts across roadways, UV got bitter cold, UV got the cleanup process that is going to take days. If you absolutely must travel, Sunday afternoon and Monday are when things start to improve. But Saturday is a complete write-off for travel across the affected region. Power outages are a real concern with this storm. Not so much from ice, although there could be some icing on the southern edge, but from wind. When you combine 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts with heavy wet snow, tree branches come down, power lines come down. We saw this with storms in the past, and I would not be surprised if we see tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people lose power Saturday night into Sunday morning across the Carolinas and Virginia. If you live in any of the areas I've mentioned as high snow zones, now is the time to prepare. And I don't just mean bread and milk. I mean making sure you have a way to stay warm if you lose power, making sure you have flashlights and batteries, making sure your phone is charged, making sure you have enough food that doesn't require cooking if your power goes out. This is basic emergency preparedness, but it matters enormously in a situation like this. Let me address the cold that's coming behind this storm because the snow is just part of the story. Sunday morning, after the storm pulls away, Arctic air floods in. We're talking about temperatures that are going to be record-breaking cold for late January. Raleigh, Sunday morning low around 15 degrees. That would tie or break records. Charlotte, 16 degrees. Columbia, South Carolina, 18 degrees. Charleston, 25 degrees. Atlanta, Sunday morning low around 20 degrees. That's a hard freeze for infrastructure that isn't designed for it. Nashville, you are still recovering from the last winter storm, still have ice on the ground, still have power outages, and now you're looking at a Sunday morning low around 12 degrees. That is just brutal. Richmond, Virginia, Sunday morning low around 13 degrees. Norfolk, 17 degrees. These are temperatures that these cities see maybe once every few years, and they recoming on the heels of a major snowstorm. The combination is what makes this particularly challenging. And here's the thing. This cold doesn't leave quickly. Monday morning, still cold. Tuesday morning, still cold. We are talking about multiple days of well below freezing temperatures across the entire Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. That means the snow that falls Saturday isn't melting anytime soon. That means ice on roads is going to be a problem well into next week. That means the recovery period is extended. Looking ahead to the middle of next week, and I want to be very careful here because the forecast uncertainty is enormous, but there are indications of another potential system developing. Not as strong as this weekend-esque storm, but possibly bringing more snow to some of the same areas that get hit this weekend. The models are all over the place with this, showing everything from a complete miss to another significant snow event. What I can tell you with more confidence is that the cold pattern continues. There's no warm-up in sight. Long-range models are keeping the eastern United States locked in below normal temperatures through at least the first week of February. Multiple reinforcing shots of Arctic air are likely. Whether those shots bring more snow depends on moisture timing, but the cold is almost guaranteed. For those of you in the Midwest, I haven't forgotten about you. Chicago, you are looking at single-digit temperatures Sunday morning, 3 degrees. With wind chill, you are talking about feeling like 15 to 20 below zero. Minneapolis, you are at -5 Sunday morning, -25 wind chill. This is dangerous cold. Frostbite in minutes, kind of cold. Detroit, 7 degrees Sunday morning. Indianapolis, 9 degrees. St. Louis, 11 degrees. Kansas City, 13 degrees. All of you are dealing with prolonged Arctic air that's just relentless. There's no break, no warm-up, just day after day of well below normal temperatures. The Great Lakes are producing intense lake-effect snowbands. Buffalo, you are already buried, and you are going to see another 6 to 12 inches through the weekend from Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Syracuse, same story, 8 to 14 inches possible in the persistent bands. Erie, Pennsylvania, 4 to 8 inches. Cleveland, 2 to 5 inches depending on band position. Grand Rapids, Michigan, you re on Lake Michigan's East Shore, 6 to 10 inches looks likely through Sunday. Traverse City, similar totals. Marquette, URE on Lake Superior, and you could see a foot or more in the most persistent bands. This lake effect snow is completely separate from the coastal storm we've been discussing, but it's happening at the same time, which just adds to the overall picture of a very active winter weather pattern. Let me circle back to the bomb cyclone aspect of this storm because I think some people hear that term and don't fully understand what it means. When a storm bombs out, when it rapidly intensifies like this one is forecast to do, several things happen. The winds increase dramatically, the precipitation rates increase, the overall intensity of all the impacts gets amplified. A storm that might have produced 6 inches of snow at moderate intensity could produce 10 inches with heavy intensity and high winds. The European model, which is generally considered the gold standard for medium-range forecasting, is showing this storm bottoming out around 970 millibars Sunday morning off the coast of Virginia. That is an extremely intense low-pressure system. For comparison, a typical nor'easter might bottom out around 990 millibars. We were talking about something significantly stronger than a typical nor'easter. The GFS model, the American model, is showing a similar solution but with the low pressure a bit farther offshore, which would reduce snow totals for coastal areas but might actually increase them for inland areas. The Canadian model splits the difference, showing the low pressure tracking right along the coast, which would maximize impacts. Which model is right? We'll know tomorrow. Tonight's model runs are going to be absolutely critical for refining this forecast. By tomorrow afternoon, we should have much better clarity on exact storm track, exact intensity, and exact snow totals. That's why you need to come back tomorrow for the update. What I am telling you today is the best available information right now, but it will change. Forecasts always evolve, especially with complex storms like this. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is the storm surge potential. The North Carolina coast, particularly the Outer Banks, could see significant storm surge Saturday night into Sunday as this storm intensifies right offshore. We're talking about 2 to 4 feet of surge in some locations, coinciding with high tide. That means coastal flooding, beach erosion, and potential overwash in vulnerable areas. Ocracoke, Hatteras, all of the Outer Banks communities, this is a serious concern. The combination of storm surge, astronomical high tide, and heavy snow is extremely rare. The last time something similar happened was back in the 1990s, and it caused significant damage. I am not saying this will be that bad, but the potential is there. Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach, Curray Beach, all of the southern North Carolina beaches could see flooding as well. Not as extreme as the Outer Banks because the storm center will be farther away, but still concerning. Tybee Island, Georgia, similar situation, coastal flooding possible Saturday night. For those of you who've watched to this point, I want to acknowledge that this has been a lot of information. 25 minutes of weather forecasting is intense, but when we're dealing with a potentially historic winter storm, I'd rather give you too much information than too little. You can always skip around to find your specific city, but I want to make sure everyone gets what they need. The key takeaways are these. Major winter storm impacts Saturday across the Carolinas, Virginia, and parts of Georgia. Snowfall totals of 6 to 15 inches likely in the heaviest areas. Blizzard conditions possible along the coast with winds gusting to 70 miles per hour. Bomb cyclone development Saturday night. Arctic air flooding in behind the storm Sunday. Dangerously cold temperatures Sunday through Tuesday. Possible additional winter weather next week. Tomorrow, SE video will have updated snow totals, refined timing, specific street-level forecast for communities mentioned in the comments, and hopefully better clarity on that potential midweek system. I'll be up late tonight analyzing the new model data, and I'll have everything ready for you by 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Stay safe, stay warm, and I'll see you tomorrow with updated forecast.